So, our first segment today is, wanna do the intro? Guessing if it's a human or the smart pilot
Exactly.
driving. Got it. Man, this is actually pretty
Driving
dope.
to the office.
But they set up a bunch of waypoints along the way. Alright, this car, let me explain real quick. I think this car has 3 main vibes. Since I drive it every day, I think it looks absolutely insane. At least, I'm a huge fan. Yeah, I'm really feeling it
honestly,
too. Some people think it looks good, but they can't pull it off. I think that's a dead mindset. Like, I've heard this theory before. If the design is too aggressive, super avant-garde and modern, some people feel like they can't handle that style. But actually, here's the thing. Legacy car brands make these sick concept cars, but almost none of them dare to mass produce them, which is honestly such a waste. I feel like this new gen of car companies actually has the guts to do it. Because it's a new generation of entrepreneurs. No baggage, right? No conservative restrictions. I think that's the key. It's like a concept car and come to life. Super safe conservative types, worrying they can't handle the style? Honestly, they're overthinking it. I think it's fire. Yeah, same. Second point, this is the only XPeng that's actually elite. Different driving modes. One is Smart Pilot, which we'll check it out. The other is pure handling. That was definitely me driving. Haha, because when I tested it yesterday, the Smart Assist was buttery smooth. Even when it's fast, it's smooth. But your driving was just all over the place. I was literally gonna troll you, like, no way this is the AI driving. What struck me about the Pilot yesterday, during smart driving mode, is that it doesn't just crawl along to be safe. It actually holds its own when merging into traffic. It's not reckless, but it's not a total pushover either. You know what I mean? That's super important. Yeah, a lot of these systems need that balance. Yielding too much doesn't work. And being too aggressive is bad too. A friend once took me for a ride in Silicon Valley, doing like 125 miles per hour. And you know I was sitting exactly where you are. And my hands were literally white-knuckling the grab handle, because it was just hitting like 125 in the valley. Is absolutely wild. I mean, it's not like a wide open highway road. 2 lanes, hitting those speeds. Even if it was just for a moment, it really showed off the athletic feel of that car. But when I got out, my heart was shaking. Haha. Heart going thump-thump. I don't know how you feel as a passenger or as a driver, but for me, this is the only car I'd trust doing high speeds in. Back when I was in Germany, I pushed the P7 to 138 miles per hour. Since there's no speed limit on the Autobahn, I felt incredibly grounded. But at that time, the highway was actually pretty narrow, not like the wide roads in China. So, from another angle, when I was first getting used to it, I was low-key terrified the whole time. You got to get used to it first. Actually, yeah. How does it feel? Honestly, I can't even tell right now. Everything is just so buttery smooth at the moment. It's hard to distinguish if a person is driving or if the Smart Pilot is in control. See, Luo I tried to set a trap but he didn't fall for it. So when I tested it yesterday, here's what happened. We got to the airport first, but we were pretty early. So we found a nearby cafe. And then I took over the wheel. While I was driving, I was actually using the Smart Pilot about 99% of the time. And during that whole trip, even when we hit sections with heavy mixed traffic cars and people, it handled everything flawlessly. No jittering at all, no sudden panic braking or jerky launches. None of that. And what really impressed me was how it maintained a solid speed. It didn't just constantly yield to everyone or drive in that overly hesitant way. Just to play it safe, it moves when it's supposed to move with traffic, and you don't feel every other car is constantly cutting you off. It holds its own. The whole ride was smooth. My chauffeur from was in the car with me, and we were just talking about it. I was joking with him. It drives better than you. And he's a pro driver. I told him it's got him beat. The thing is, I'm not even that great of a driver, so I'm not someone who has an ego about handling or some obsession with priding myself on my driving skills. Those people have their own biases and know baggage. What I mean? They're the type who think everyone else on earth is have that attitude. So for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of a typical user. And it just feels so smooth. Building on what you just said, I have two really interesting stories. I've dealt with 3 different drivers recently. One is my regular driver in Guangzhou, and the other 2 were from business
Beijing
trips. And Hefei. A friend's company provided those drivers to pick me up. I never used to notice if a driver was good or bad before. I thought they were all great, at least better than me. That's what I thought, but because I've been using our internal beta for the past 2 or 3 months, the contrast is insane. With the drivers in Beijing and Hefei, I actually had to tell them, since they were driving me on highways and through the city, you don't need to be so aggressive with the lane changes and pedals. My Guangzhou driver said he used to pride himself on 2 things. First, his golden right foot, the ability to drive without any jarring jerks for the passenger. Now that he's watching the car drive itself, he thinks the car's fluidity is even better than his own. That's the first thing. The second thing, another point of pride for him, is that he knows the roads. He says that while it can't quite match him yet, it's already getting remarkably close in many areas. Maybe that driver is exaggerating a little bit. Well, my Guangzhou driver, born and raised, he feels like he knows every little back alley in the city. He thinks he's the expert. I get it. But now he feels that when the car plans, it sometimes sees further ahead than he does. Because a human usually focuses on a single angle, maybe looking 20 to 40 meters ahead. Right, but sometimes our car, he's looking 50 to 60 meters out. Most people don't look that far ahead. His planning is, but the AI does. And it suddenly realizes sometimes when it plans, why did it cut over here early? It's because of what's happening 50 meters away. It's just like chess, right? A human player might see 4 moves ahead, but an AI player sees way more. Exactly, planning far ahead is a total game changer. So that's the vibe from my 3 drivers. Now, to your second point, I've got another story. Back when I used our old Smart Pilot, the previous gen, on narrow roads, or when it was crowded, it would drive insanely slow. Like, I'll just crawl along, or it would just stop. You go first. No, I lost my nerve doing that. I felt so bad for one specific group of people, the guys behind me. I don't even know them, but they would get so tilted. You know how it is. The polite ones don't honk. They just wait, but the rude ones, asterisk beep 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 asterisk, get moving. I'm the type of person who thinks driving smoothly should be for the good of everyone on the road. So, from my perspective, driving efficiency as in, don't block the lane, don't hold everyone up, that's a huge deal. Yeah, the old Smart Pilots bottleneck everyone in so many scenarios. In the early days, the tech just wasn't there yet, so they had to be overly polite to stay safe. It's a really interesting shift. The other thing I noticed, the reason I kept bringing up how buttery smooth it was yesterday, is that I actually get carsick pretty easily. Out of the professional drivers we've hired, take a guy from the military. He drove in the army. He wasn't a chauffeur for high-level officers, so he never learned that you have to accelerate in a gradual, smooth way. Same with braking. He was all about that gas it, slam it style. In the army, he just drove to get things done. When he first joined us, I was like, why am I always getting carsick with this guy? It's because his acceleration and his braking is too sharp. If you're the one driving, you're fine. But if you're a passenger and they're driving like that, you're gonna be nauseous in minutes. It's actually crazy. Later, we went on a business trip, and they hired a professional VIP concierge driver. I noticed how he gassed it and braked, even though he wasn't slow by any means. He held his own in traffic. His transitions were just incredibly smooth. Sorry, let me interrupt. Look at this right here. 2 lanes are merging in. The way it merges, it's just so seamless. Yeah, sorry, no worries. Go on. I had that same experience yesterday when we were changing lanes. As they say these days, it neither gets bullied nor acts like a bully. It doesn't recklessly cut people off. But it also doesn't just yield. That is vital. No reason. Honestly, for me, that's a major for judging smart driving. About that carsick feeling you mentioned, we all remember the talk about people getting sick in EVs. Lots of people complained about it. Because electric cars launch so fast, and the brakes are so bitey, the longitudinal G's x-axis, and the lateral G's y-axis. It wobbles when it turns, right? So both the longitudinal x-axis and lateral y-axis end up making the passenger uncomfortable. Like you said, this is an incredibly important point. But with the way we're doing things now, you'll find that, whether it's an EV or a gas car, it can master both. It's like it's becoming a true professional. To test this specific capability, we actually developed a software. We called it Spill. Basically, you put a cup of coffee in the car, and if it drives for 2 hours, what percentage of that coffee spills? Starting with a full cup, if your XYZ calibration, Z being the vertical bumps, isn't handled perfectly, that coffee is going everywhere. We compared a bunch of Smart Pilot software against human drivers. Our spill rate was only about 1-something%, meaning over 98% after driving for over an hour. Total stability. Yeah, while many others spilled 20% to 40%. I bet hitting that 1% mark is something most human drivers can't even do. It's actually really hard. The reason AI is getting so strong is that I'm learning from how you drive, right? And we're basically doing reinforcement learning based on 1,000 years worth of driving scenarios, constantly shifting gears through these situations. All right, I'll take over for a bit. Watch it cut over. I'll switch here on the right. Okay, cool. Let's find a spot somewhere I can pull over. Then we'll head back. Hard to find parking around here. Nowhere works. Wait, look here. Let's find a hotel entrance or something. Whoa, you can feel this segment. Who's driving now? Who's driving? Feeling a bit of that car sickness yet? Yeah, it's not nearly as smooth. And I'm actually trying really hard to be smooth. That was absolute. This was my strongest realization yesterday. The thing is, my pro driver is already a top-tier driver. But look at me here, totally failing to maintain trying to slowly wait for this person to cross. It's me driving. But even with me trying my best, a human controlling this just can't compete with the machine's fluidity. It's incomparable, even on this slightly complex road. Xiang has to focus on driving. Even stopped talking. Guilty, because this part is a bit tricky. I want to drive smoothly, haha, but still have to talk. My brain is a single core CPU. So I've been a bit quiet just now, trying to stay focused on the road. Okay, we can stop here. Xiang, your speech was way more fluid in the first half. It's super obvious. Switching back now,